So me and Luce got the most amazing opportunity. So massive shout out to Izzy, Vanessa at England Netball that set us up with the opportunity to go behind the scenes at the Super Cup, which was super cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a long day, but oh my goodness, it was so much fun. Just being able to watch the games live always is better than watching it on TV. The atmosphere, we were quite high up, but just being there and just being there with all the
Women's
lights,
Day as well.
International Women's Day, and then being able to like go behind the scenes, see the players just walking around. I was like,
we saw Karen Gregg in the toilet and we both just went so shy.
Yeah, we like looked at each other like,
and then you were there like drying your hands and I was washing my hands and I hadn't noticed her, and then I don't know why I'm doing this, I'm just washing my hands in the sink. And then you were just yeah. And then I looked at her, you know when you like fangirling so hard and you're like, do I say hi? And I didn't, and then I told like Jay about it and he's like, why do you say hi? Like, she's just so human. I was like, you don't understand, like she's just so cool, and you just panic, don't you?
But I did feel very professional. We had our little lanyards with our photos on, so we were just walking around
when we picked up our lanyards, I think we both looked like rabbits in headlights when we first got there, because we're a bit like, we don't know what we're doing, we feel really nervous. And then we get these like super cool like lanyards with like our names on, it's like Netball Natter, like podcast, and it was so cool, wasn't it?
It was a lot of fun, and we just met, obviously we met the head coaches, we met a few players, but just other people there as well was just really, it was just such a good day of netball as well.
It was nice to see like so many people that are also like as passionate about netball as we are. There was other like broadcasters there, other podcasts, and I think it's really nice to see that there is so much space in netball for us to be like promoting and talking about how amazing it is, and especially on like International Women's Day, where it was nice to be at the Super Cup, spending the day with you. Always fun. And then we got a Burger King on our drive home, which is becoming a thing now when we go anywhere.
Yeah, when we go and watch netball. We did it when we went to the Nations Cup as well. We had a cheeky Burger King, so
gotta treat yourself.
Definitely got to continue that if we ever get to go to other
It's
games.
gonna be our thing now. Burger King. Can we get sponsored by Burger King?
Yeah, little shout out there. So should we start? We're going to break it down into the team segments. We thought going into each game might be a bit in depth. It might be a bit long. So we just want to break down sort of like what we thought was good with each team, how they did well with the super shot. We'll talk about that a bit more. So we should. And
then we've got to do our predictions for the season. And I think we were both wrong as well as to who was going to finish where. Because I think I said Loughborough are going to come top. I thought Pulse was going to be in there.
Yeah, well, Well, no spoilers.
Were my wild card. Who did you say was going to come top?
Oh, gosh. I can't remember, actually. Maybe, I think I've definitely put Panthers and Nottingham
Manchester,
up there.
maybe? Was it Manchester you
No, because of all the changes. I didn't put them up there. But we'll go into it. We'll sort of break it down a bit. So, should we start with Birmingham Panthers?
Yes.
So, what did we think about seeing them as a team? Obviously, first time seeing them out on court. We sort of got to speak to a couple of the players, but being able to have those connections brought in from stars, I guess, was really good, and you saw that on court, and then working it through court with obviously Gabby Marshall, Jess Shaw, Ziggy and Jazz all coming from stars. I feel like I'm missing someone as well, but just those connections were really strong, and I thought they worked really, really well, obviously, knowing how to feed Ziggy, and was really good, really fun to watch.
The interesting thing though was Panthers were the only team to not win any of their games. So they won 0. Yeah. So for me, I actually felt like the Panthers, we were really excited about their lineup. They were missing Gabby Sinclair. And for me, when I watched them as a team, I felt like they were missing that like go-to goal attack role. I think Jess was working really well with Gabby Marshall. There's a lot of Gabbies in this team.
Yes. And Gabby Kofi, who was missing as well. But
so Gabby Marshall, Jess Shaw into Ziggy, I think was working well. Then you had Betsy Creek in there as well. But Betsy, I would say, is more of a goal shooter than a goal attacker. And I, in my head, what I see for that team is Ziggy wasn't happy, or from on the day didn't put up a lot of the super shots. It was Betsy that was in putting them up, So I think what might work for them as a team is keeping your Gabby and Gabby Marshall and Jess Shaw, because I think they were working well together. I think you need a Gabby Sinclair in there to be that goal attack, and I think that is the position they'll just put her in because she's phenomenal at it. I think you'd have your Siggy on for the
first 10 minutes,
and then your last 5 minutes I think you'd bring a Betsy on in to be your impact player for the super shot time. So I think it was a shame they didn't get any wins. I thought defensively they were looking strong, but I do feel like they could have got a little bit more ball. I think like Jazz Brown is insane, and I think when we had like the interview of her, which we'll come on to a little bit later on about that, but I think even she was kind of reflecting on, like, as a team, I think in the super shot time, which is the perfect time to test it out, but I do think they could have got a little bit closer. It was almost a little bit polite, it felt like, when it got into the super shot time, where people were like, do you want the outer circle? Go on, you go in. And I felt like I just wanted a little bit more fight from the team. So for me, I was a little bit surprised. I really wanted Panthers to be up there a little bit more, and I think they deserve to be, but I do think they are missing like quite a key player in their attacking lineup, and I do think it really showed on the day that they missed a Gabby Sinclair.
I do, however, think that just the speed and the placement of the balls were intense. Like, I was struggling to follow it, whether it was because I had already had like an early morning start and I maybe hadn't had as much coffee as maybe I needed, but just so quick, such quick phases through court from defensive end if they got a turnover, or just from centre pass, and that was really something that I thought was really good. But definitely things they need to work on, and I think they said that to us as well when we spoke with them. They know they can do better, and again, something we spoke about with a lot of the head coaches was it's really hard to show what a team can do in 14 minutes. Like, obviously the games were 7 minutes per half, and that's so hard to sort of get going. Like, it usually takes the first quarter to get going in an actual game, and so the fact that the whole game wasn't even that length, it was stop start,
It's a very different style of netball that obviously I think it had like mixed reviews in terms of like, does it really set a team up for success in the Super League when it kicks off on Friday, or does it not? I think my view is it was nice to get a bit of a feeler and see some of the teams and see the combinations, but I do think like that the first half, like, blink and you kind of miss it. And then they get a minute off, which is like barely any time. By the time they'd all walked over, got to the huddle, the coaches are there trying to give feedback, and then they were like, I don't know, it felt like literally seconds worth of feedback. They were all high-fiving and back up the other end. I liked the pace of it, but I also...
As a fan, I think it was a good pace. You were getting through lots of games, you were seeing all teams, but as a player, I can see how it would be frustrating having such short
not having the time to kind of get up to speed. And obviously there was like tactical changes and things like that allowed in there as well, so we saw kind of players rolling in and out as well, which was good to see, like that come in and keep the fluidity of the game. But it's over so quickly, isn't it?
But again, every team is in that situation, so excited to sort of start the Super League and see how actually different the teams are with those longer times. So
should we go on? London Mavericks are the next team that we looked at. So I was really excited about this team lineup. I think they had most of their players, if not all of their players, playing that were selected for the squad, and then we got to see them kind of play in the Super Cup as well. They managed to beat Panthers but lost to Nottingham Forest and Manchester Thunder. The thoughts from me is I love Ellie, Emma and Emily. Oh God, that's hard.
That is hard.
Ellie, Ratu. Maybe I should go with surnames. Ratu, Thacker, and Andrew. I loved that. Like, trio was just beautiful. It was a masterclass. It was great to see it. I think Thacker plays a very different kind of style of goal attack, where she's a little bit more flowy. She's not probably as nippy as like a Gabby Sinclair, for example, but she brings a very different style of goal attack, which worked really well when you've got like an Andrew in there as well. I thought she had a fantastic game. She put up a lot of super shots. She was
Shout
super
out to
confident.
her. She got the first
ever super shot, of the season, which is great to see. And the other player that I thought I'd call out was Izzy Phillips. I thought that she had a really strong game. I think that she worked really hard. She was getting around the body well. She was, I think, quite a key player for them in kind of getting and winning ball back. I was excited by the Mavs team. I think they came out super strong, but then I think started to tail off. But I think quite a few of the players spoke to us about how it's quite hard. You're on, you're off, you're on, you're off, then you're off for a little bit more of a break, and then you're back on for another game, and it's quite hard to then kind of get your rhythm going. Maybe some of that was kind of coming through, but I do like this team, and I do think their attacking end is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited by it. The first game for was the Mavericks game, and just excited. Obviously, it was the first game of the day, but I think Mavs having this big new rebrand, playing against Panthers, it was just really exciting, and I do think they all came out really, really strong. But as you say, just their next couple of games, we were like, oh, okay, Mavs, they're here. And then it slightly dropped off. And again, whether it was because they cooled down after playing a game and then they're back on and it's all a bit stop-start. But yeah, I think they're great. I think, lots of sort of things to take away from that day, but also lots of positives to look at and sort of improve on to just get better and better. I do think some long balls into the circle was good. Obviously, Andrews is a tall shooter, and so she's able to get those high balls, but maybe they were getting a bit cocky at some points, and that's where they were losing some of their balls. But again, just the movement throughout court, quick, sharp. I thought Ellie Ratu is incredible. As I said, I loved her as a wing defence, but actually I think my new favourite position for her is centre, especially as a captain now, where she can have that input throughout the court, is really exciting.
Yeah, like this Mavs team, I'm excited to see kind of what they bring to the table in the season.
So, Nottingham Forest, again, first sighting of the new team, very exciting. We both had very high expectations, and I think the first game, correct me if I'm wrong, the first game was, did they lose their first game?
So they lost their first game to Manchester Thunder, and then they won their game against Mavs and the Panthers.
Yeah, so I think...
And made the semi-final.
Yeah, so I think first game, maybe just a bit of nerves, and we spoke with Chelsea Pittman, and again, we'll go into more detail in maybe later, but she spoke about how it wasn't necessarily what they knew they were capable of, and so maybe they had some good conversations in the changing rooms about it, but you definitely saw a very big switch up in the next two games, further games on, just with the connections throughout court, and just confidence. I do think maybe it is just nerves, coming out on this big arena, so many people, the atmosphere was genuinely insane. But yeah, we saw that sort of switch up in the next couple of games. But what did you think?
Yeah, it was great to see as a new team how they could really shift momentum, because after that first kind of loss, I was thinking, and obviously that was against Manchester Thunder, who are a well-established team, very well-oiled. So I, not sound horrible, but I wasn't surprised that maybe they lost that first game against the Thunder because they are such a new team. But it was great to see. I think how they started, was not as strong as what I was hoping to see for them. I thought that they weren't really driving onto the ball. They weren't really they weren't almost hungry for it, is how I felt. And then suddenly, it was like a whole different team walked out onto that court,
Yeah.
and it was really refreshing to see. I think Rolene was incredible.
Yeah.
And we were saying we want to take a little bit of a look into the stats and the data as to how many super shots she put up and how many she sank, because she was on fire in those games, especially the semi-final as well. Like, she was not shying away from putting up those super shots. I think her combination with Ria was working well, but I do think that what started to happen is I think Ria then started to shy away a little bit from putting up some of those super shots. And I think if we think about where Ria used to play, which is obviously Loughborough Lightning, she had Mary as that holding goal shooter, where she was almost probably a little bit more of a feeder rather than a dominant shooter in that lineup, because you don't need to be a dominant shooter when you've got Mary holding onto the post. So I think she's having to adapt her style of play, having played quite a few seasons with Mary, to now having Rolene there that's happy to put up the shots, but also is quite, I think, a bit more of a sharer shooter in terms of, like, they're both hungry for ball and she wants her to be putting up the shots as well.
Yeah.
And I think, again, we'll come on to this in our something special coming up. Ria spoke a little bit around how she needs to get on the ball a little bit more and, you know, have a go at putting up some of those shots. So I do think a lot of the heavy lifting fell onto Rolene, which then meant that when super shot time came, defenders knew that ball was going to Rolene, and we had a period of time where Ria was unmarked and she was in the super shot zone, went to take the shot, decided she didn't fancy it, passed it back out, tried to run away, but both defenders just stayed on Rolene, which made it really hard, and Ria was just free in the circle because they knew that Rolene's the only one who's going to put up those super shots. So I think tactfully, when they think about the season, she's going to have to start putting up those shots, because soon as you, as a defender, if you know only one player is going to put up the super shot, then that's going to be the difference between catching up and not. You're probably going to start double marking the one that's going to put the shots up.
Yeah, and again, I think that's just comes with confidence, you know, like first game out, or, you know, the opener almost. Just settling some nerves, but yeah, I do agree. Another person I want to sort of highlight was Hannah Layton at wing defence.
Yes, yeah.
Honestly, does she have wings or something? Because she was everywhere, and just some of the intercepts, I'm genuinely speechless. Like, you just didn't. No words.
And as I said, I think the defence was good, but again, I think they weren't, in some cases for me, on the super shot, like, putting enough pressure over the ball. And obviously this is new to everyone, so everyone's finding their feet with this. But it did feel just quite polite, like they weren't even getting arms over just to distract the focus on the ball. Like Jiva, who's obviously played with this, I think you can see the defence that have had experience or been coached by someone that's had the experience of it versus those that haven't, because the style of defence and how they played were very different. You look at Jiva, she would be hand over that shot straight away, like anything that she can do just to put the shooter off and get in their head, and it works. Even just an arm over, like, makes a big difference, whereas I think in some cases I felt like they were just hanging back a little bit. But we've got some more intel to come that we can share a little bit around that as well. But I think all in all, for a new team, for them just to have the loss to Manchester and then the win against Mavs and Panthers and make the semi-finals, I mean, Chelsea Pittman must be super proud of her team to be a newly formed one and to make it to the semi-finals. I mean, hats off to her.
Yeah.
She's got it. Manchester Thunder. So the Manchester team had quite a lot of missing players.
Players. Just not expected changes. So I think the day before we found out that Paige Reed wasn't going to be available, and so seeing some movements there in the shooting end, seeing Vandenberg come out to goal attack, which was love. Like, we know that she's a strong shooter. And same with Rolene. Like, clearly the South Africans know how to shoot a super shot, because she was on fire. Like, and it was just so nonchalant. Like, she would see she's in the super shot range and just, like, in it goes.
Incredible.
So good. But yeah, so we obviously didn't see Paige Reed. We knew that Lois Pearson was out. Obviously Nat Metcalf is out with growing a little baby. So lots of changes, obviously. Some they knew about, some was a bit late, and so maybe we expected them to have a few sort of not great connections just because those relationships hadn't been there, or just where they've been training with certain ways and then obviously it switches round. But I do think that they did a really good job to sort of just still sort of show the Manchester sort of way of playing. They still had the speed, they still had obviously Amy Carter in centre. I thought she did a brilliant job of sort of bringing it through court. Defensively, she was there on every pickup. She made some great intercepts. So yeah, really, really exciting despite the obviously the changes.
And I think Anya Williams was pulled in as well, and I don't believe she was actually announced as part of their squad of 10.
Yeah, she was elevated on the, like, when they found out Paige was going to be out.
So she got elevated in. Wow, what
Yeah.
a game she had, considering that was like her introduction into, I guess, the Super League. Wow, she had impact, and I loved Van de Berg and her and how they like matched up together. I was intrigued when we saw Van de Berg out go attack, and I was like, oh, is this gonna work? But her movement was incredible, and she really suits she can flex between the two very nicely. Yeah. And I actually quite like the fact they put her out as goal attack, because it gave her a little bit more freedom to be out and about, off the ball. She was doing a lot of lovely cuts and drives in the air, landing in the space in the super shot zone, and was just sinking them. And again, we're gonna have to go back through and look for all the data and the numbers here, because it was insane how many she put up and how many landed. I think her percentages would be really high.
Yeah, I thought Josie Huckle was doing an amazing job in goalkeeper. I think putting doubt into the feeders' minds, just moving around the player, but also very similar to sort of someone like a Courtney Bruce, coming out for those flyers. She was not afraid to come out of the circle. And I definitely also noticed a difference when she wasn't on court. A lot of the rebounds...
You called it out on the day, didn't
you? A lot of the rebounds weren't being picked up. So she, again, would be interested to look at the data, how many rebounds she gets, because I think it would be quite high. I think she would be up there with maybe someone like a Jazz Brown, partly because of her height, but also I think she's quite, like, in the best way, quite an aggressive player, and I really like that, and I enjoyed watching her. So yeah.
The other one I'd want to call out would be Amy Carter, just flying about in the centre. The amount of, like on the circle where they go through the air and she just catches the ball beautifully with two hands, cleanly, lands nowhere near the circle, like she's made the space, and it's just so beautiful to watch her like aerial game. She was so good and a real strong player for them, and probably nice that they've got someone like stable and that stability in the centre of the court because of the changes and the number of players they've got coming in. When it comes to the Super League itself, how do you feel about this Manchester team? Because obviously there are quite a few changes that have come in. We didn't get to see kind of all of their named 10 squad because of injuries and pieces like that. So how do you feel about the team with missing like Paige and Lois?
So I thought before we saw anything on the Saturday, I was a bit like, ooh, I didn't have as much confidence, and maybe that's bad of me to say, but we were on the journey up. We were very much like, oh, do you know what, maybe this would change our predictions, not having Paige in, not knowing how Anya plays, but I think they very quickly changed our opinion, or they changed my opinion of that. I think they've still got, obviously all their players have been elevated, other than I think Nicole was the only person that they had from another team come in. Sorry, not Nicole, Nicola Smith.
Yeah.
In defence. But I think just the way that they were able to adapt in sort of an environment where maybe they weren't necessarily comfortable because of the changes that they had to make. So just like the changes and how they were able to adapt was really impressive.
Definitely.
Leeds Rhinos. I was super hyped because I just love Juva. I can't express enough. I think firstly her experience from the Australian League, knowing about the super shot, I think we definitely saw that on court, how she was marking the shooters kind of out of that place. She was letting them go for their the one pointers, and you could see that in her defensive style. We already mentioned her pressure over the ball, over the shots, just incredible. But also, although she's not captain, just the leadership. And we spoke with Cassie. Again, you might hear this later in a interesting twist of events. Anyway, she was saying that Jiva is just so easy to go and talk to about attacking and defence. And she can hear her throughout the court. And I think that's what you want from a goalkeeper or a goal shooter. You want sort of coaching throughout the game, and being at that perspective of, one end of the court and seeing it is, impressive. I think they came in being the underdogs, and they've definitely lost that title in the best way. Getting into the final, people weren't even expecting them to get into the semi-final. So really, really impressive step up from Leeds. And I think we spoke to Laura Palmer, and she mentioned actually they had nothing to lose. So they had that title of being an underdog. So
they just enjoyed it.
They're either going to keep that or they're going to prove us wrong, and I think they did the latter. So yeah, really, really exciting to watch, and very different to previous season.
Yeah, I definitely, not to sound horrible, looking at some of the star names and other players and who plays in the Roses, I hadn't, when I just looking at the team sheets, hadn't picked them as coming up as high. So their first game they lost to Dragons, and they lost 10-17. So I think it's probably fair to say when we watched that first, we were like, oh, Rhinos are going to struggle with this. There's going to be a big gap between the rest of the teams. They then went on and played Pulse and won. 16-13. And then they played Loughborough and won 12-11. And then they make it to the semi-finals where they beat Nottingham Forest. And then they make it to the finals where we know obviously they come in second place. Second place behind London Pulse. So it was, for me, I was shocked. I know that sounds awful to say, but lots of kind of different players in there. I didn't think they were going to finish as high as that, and they were such a curveball in there for me, and it worked so well. And when I was reflecting on it as to why I think it worked well, I think what they've got is two really strong bookends. And what I mean by that is they've got Jiva at one end, who is a well-established keeper, played in SSM, played in our league, domestic league as well, and she knows what she's doing when it comes to the super shot. She's obviously well respected, the team really look up to her and value her. And then down the other end of the court, you've got Joyce as well.
Yeah.
So you've got, again, another really experienced goal shooter who is happy to put up super shots alongside, I think it was Harriet that was also kind of pulling in that position as well. And it was just really exciting to see this team. And I think they've got lots of really good players in that team that I think we maybe underestimated a little bit how good they are when they gel together. And I think they were just quietly going about their business and absolutely just dominated. And it really, really surprised me, because you saw that first game and we were all a bit probably this is going to be
Rhinos.
This is going to be a big gap. And we spoke about having all this excitement around the new league and how teams really look closely matched together, and I was like, this is going to blow this apart. Leeds are going to be really far behind, and then they go ahead and make the final. I was like, wow.
I do really think they're definitely going to be one to watch. I'm super excited for it.
Definitely. Cardiff Dragons are the next team we're going to run through. So they lost Pulse and Lightning, but actually beat Leeds in the tele events here.
Yeah.
I would say standouts for me was Philippa. Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. She was putting in a shift at putting up those shots. I think that Georgia Rowe did a great job in the first 5 minutes of play, I guess normal netball time.
Yeah.
I think she was great there. I do think when the super shot time came in, again, it was very obvious that Philippa was going to be the one that's putting up the super shots and Georgia was not going to be putting up any super shots. So they went double mark Philippa, and even Windy was getting involved on like keeping her out of the circle, and they did a great job of kind of keeping her out. But I think, again, they're going to have to think about their tactics. Does Georgia actually become, because imagine how lethal she could be as a shooter if she could sink those super shots. Like they could have such a strong attacking end. They were then bringing on was it Chelsea Beard, who would also then put up the super shot. So at least again maybe they'll have Georgia on for the normal netball time, and then when they go into the Power 5 time, they would then bring on Chelsea instead. So they've got options, and she could be that impact player. But I just don't know why, like with tall holding shooters, why can't they go and sink the super shots as well? Like they should throw the hat in the ring. I know, like in the Australian League, they talk about like Cara Cronin and how she needs to start putting up some of those shots. And I think just because you're a tall holding shooter doesn't mean you can't put them up. So I would like to see Georgia put some up, because I think she would be such a threat to any teams. And when you've got two confident shooters able to put up the super shot, that would be insane. But I do think they were starting to punch through well, but as the games went on, I do think they started to get a little bit stuck at times, and were struggling to get the ball through a little bit, I felt. But the defence, I think, was looking really strong. I really like their defensive lineup. I think they are really... I know we say aggressive, and aggressive comes across very negatively, but in netball I don't think it is. I think they're aggressive to the right level in terms of they're hungry for ball. They were not afraid to go for the flyers. They were staying body on body, keeping it really hard for the attack that they came up against. So I really, really like the Cardiff Dragons lineup, and I think, with their head coach and the changes that kind of come in, I think they will be in a really kind of strong position.
Yeah, speaking about the defence end, Leah Middleton and Jackie Newton, I think their relationship is so strong, and that definitely comes through on court. They're picking off intercepts, they're making tips, and then the other person's there to get the pickup. And then also just the backup as well, bringing it through court, the defence are bringing it through court, the attack's there, Philippa's there working around the circle, not having to be the person bringing it down the court, which I think sometimes you want to be that option as a goal attack in the mid-court, but I think they did that really well to sort of use their defence a lot. Really love the defensive end and the whole team of Cardiff Dragons. And again, I think they're definitely going to be ones to look out for. I think their first game, they came out and they showed that they're here, they've switched things up a bit, and they're ready to play. And also, we didn't see Elle McDonald play. And I really love her as a player. I think she's, again, quite an aggressive player, quite a defensive player. We see her in centre and on the wings as well. So excited to see her play in the games. But yeah, definitely one to look out for. Loughborough Lightning. Now, obviously, they've got quite a similar team to last season, but a big change in, obviously, the attacking end, losing Mary, but getting Berry Neal in. And their first game was against London Pulse, so obviously Berry playing against her previous team. I am loving the connection between her and Ella. I love Ella Clark as a shooter. I think she's incredible. I think, again, she has that basketball background. She's got the very chill, kind of nonchalant attitude to taking super shots, and she was sinking pretty much all of her super shots. And Berry's there sort of working as a goal attack around the edge, feeding it in, a bit like maybe a Rhea Dixon as well, so can bring that to Loughborough. But I just thought their connection was so good. And we did see them switch at one point, where Berry went into goal shooter and Ella came out. Again, it just works so well. It feels like Berry's been there for a while. It doesn't feel like this is the first time we've seen her with the rest of this team. And I think that sort of it was just really, really impressive to see, and really nice to sort of see the change in the mid-court as well, obviously not having that tall holding shooter anymore, and how they sort of switch up their play around the circle edge. So really exciting.
Yeah, so Loughborough didn't make the semi-finals, but they actually won the same number of games as London Pulse. And looking at the scoreboard, the only reason why I think London Pulse went through was based on goal difference.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, because they both, I believe they both won a game, and then they both won a game. They both lost a game, and then they drew their game where they played against each other.
Yeah.
So the goal difference meant that London Pulse went through over Loughborough Lightning, so I'm sure they were probably a little bit disappointed in that. I think they are a strong team, and I think, as you said, they have had minimal changes, so I think that bodes well for them. I think they're going to be hungry to come back and defend that title.
Yeah, of course.
And the big thing for me is they're missing Sammy Wallace-Joseph in there. And she is obviously used to play in the Swifts back in their SSM. And I think, she was a super strong player for them. And I think, again, she'll be a real asset. I think she's used to the super shots, played it. I think maybe she might be the shooter that potentially starts, and then Ella Clark comes on potentially as a bit of an impact player, and Ella and Berry maybe switch things up a little bit. So I do think they will have a strong team, and I do think Sammy coming in will be a real advantage to them. Obviously, we didn't get to see that setup at the weekend, but I do think that's gonna work well for them.
Yeah.
And then the only other bits were, I think the defence again was looking really strong, putting a lot of pressure on, and Cobden. She had a cracking day. I feel like she was really.
You're like the biggest fangirl of Cobden.
I know. Ever since we saw her, she was asking about Mum. She was so lovely. I think she had a really good day, like consistently, just very good, staying, putting pressure on, annoying the wing attacks. Like I think she had a really great day.
Yeah. The winners of the Super Cup, London Pulse. Can we just start with the defensive end? Obviously, myself as a defender, the biggest fangirl of Fumi Fadodu. No, I genuinely thought her connection with Darcy was insane. Like, where did that come from? I think Darcy Everett is growing in confidence. She maybe didn't get as much court time last season as like Adio. Just so much confidence. Oozing in confidence.
Yeah, and it was nice that she had her sister also playing the team, which I didn't realise.
Yeah.
Well, now when they said it, I was like, well, obviously, but I don't think I'd put two and two together. Maybe I was just having one of those moments.
Clearly.
But obviously, the defensive end, having those two working together as well, I mean, nothing's going to be stronger than a sisterly bond.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And the only thing I would say, though, is I was expecting a few more from Fumi, but I think what we know from Fumi is that she takes a little bit of time to warm up into her like flying through intercepts,
and she's the player at the end of the game, which you know she's going to come through and she's going to make those intercepts. And again, we spoke about it. 14 minutes for a whole game is not much time for someone to warm up, especially a Fumi. So,
and she did it in the final. Like she came through right when Rhinos. I don't think they still probably couldn't have won, even if they had scored. But she came in with a flying intercept, just how she always does, right when the team kind of needs it. So it was great to see that, but I do think I would like a little bit more from her. But I feel like we always set the bar really high. Like we want a minimum of like 15 intercepts a game. Which is too much to ask.
Because we know that she's just that good. So
we're not being unreasonable, right?
What do we think about the attacking end?
Attacking end, Liv obviously insane.
Yeah.
The super shots were made for her. I would say most of her shooting in Nations Cup was done in the super shot kind of range.
Yeah.
So I think it played to her strengths, which was good. I think I was unsure about Nicole because I think she'd had previous season she'd played wing attack a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I did wonder whether she'd find her feet going back into the goal attack. And I actually think it maybe is a positive thing, gives her a bit of confidence, having Berry move out to Loughborough, because she then almost becomes a little bit more of that first choice for that goal attack position.
Well, that is her, chosen position. And I think because Berry was just so strong in that goal attack, she was shifted to the wing attack. But yeah, I think this is her time to stand up and show that actually she's a long range shooter as well. So
she was putting up the super shots alongside Liv, and at some point in one of the games, Liv wasn't feeling it, and Nicole was there just sinking the super shots for them. And I do think that combo worked really well, because she's very whippy, she's fast, she does some big kind of cuts and drives into the circle, and I think it's great to see you've got two strong shooters that are happy to put up the long bombs. We also had Sophie Kelly coming in here as well. I do think, as you'd expect, probably a little bit nervy, and when we actually arrived on Saturday, we got there early as we're going up into the media area, and we kind of stepped out a little bit onto the court. First not feeling, thought we shouldn't have done it, but we did. And just even feeling I felt nervous just looking at the court, being on the court level, and I was like, oh my god. And there was no one in, it was pre doors kind of opening that we got in, and I felt nervous just looking at the court. So I can't imagine as a player how you must feel walking out, having a stadium packed full. Wasn't it on the day they said, on a tweet they said over 7,500 people, and I think in the media room when we're doing the interviews and things, they were saying over 9,000 people had attended. So huge crowds for netball, which is fantastic to see. But I can't imagine, but I'd imagine how it feels is super intimidating coming out. And I think Sophie was doing a good job, but I think she just needs a little bit more time to bake in with the team. And obviously, as we said, 7-minute quarters isn't a long time to really find your feet within the team. So I think we've got more to come from her, but I think she's early stages of teams coming back together and getting that groove basically.
What a day, what an experience for us. Again, massive thank you to England Netball who gave us that opportunity. Izzy and Vanessa, just amazing, incredible, thank you so much. Just a real insight as well, we spoke about it briefly at the start, just an insight into sort of what goes on behind the scenes, how much work it actually takes to put on something like this. Again, speaking to some of the head coaches, now that we've taken that step to professionalisation, we need to be behind everyone. We need to be, going to these arenas, filling them out, and just promoting netball as a sport. And that's really exciting to see the progression and what goes on behind the scenes. So super, super exciting, amazing day. Very much looking forward to maybe a next opportunity to do that.
Asking for a friend.
But what we'll do now, we'll sort of, having seen the teams play now, because we kind of went into that blind, doing our predictions, not really knowing, the teams very well. So now that we've kind of got a bit of an understanding, still not great, because as we said, we spoke about the short game times and things, we're going to make a bit more of an educated guess about who we think is going to be sort of leading the table, and we'll go through and rank the teams. We're going to be brutal. We're going to go 1 to 8.
Okay, go on, kick us off. Who do you think is going to win?
Oh god, so I've put Loughborough. I genuinely think they are, I don't know.
I think Sammy
now I'm
coming
debating
in.
myself.
I've said Loughborough as well, because I think Sammy coming in is going to make a big difference for them.
But I do think it's going to be really, really close. And I'm very happy to be proven wrong by any of these teams. And I think even though whoever I've put in 8th, I don't think...
it was hard putting someone in 8th, because I was I don't have an 8th. In my head, I have I think I've got a top... I don't even know if I've got a top 2. I'm nervous about all of these.
I know.
Okay,
so top 1 was Loughborough. Second, I put Pulse.
Same. I promise we did not do this together.
No, we haven't. Third, I put Manchester.
I put Manchester. Oh my god, this is going to be creepy. Fourth,
Leeds.
Same. We spend too much time together.
Fifth, Cardiff Dragons.
Oh, okay, we're different.
Oh, okay.
I put Panthers.
Interesting.
Because I think Gabby Sinclair is going to make a big difference.
Okay, and maybe actually having sort of placed how they they did on the weekend, they want to come back and prove themselves. So,
Yeah.
you know, I can get behind that. So that was 5th. 6th, I put Mavs.
I put Forest.
Ooh,
Because
okay.
I think Chelsea Pittman will, she'll rally.
Get
I think
them,
in that
yeah,
team.
rolled
Yeah.
up. Okay.
And Roline. Yeah.
Oh gosh, now I feel guilty.
Okay, next.
7th, so I put Nottingham 7th.
I put Dragons 7th. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then 8th, I put Panthers.
I put Mavs at the bottom.
That's really interesting because on the day you were like, oh, Mavs are so good, I reckon they're going to be at the top of the table.
I know, I've done a full 180. And as I said, I found it really hard. Do you know what?
I don't think anyone deserves 8th position.
No, because it was so
And I do
close.
think it's going to be really close. And
So
do you know
do I.
what? There might even be draws, like a lot more draws.
Oh no, we're not allowed draws, are they? Oh, was that just for the weekend though, wasn't it? Draws weren't allowed. Oh no, it was in the new
No,
rules.
but as in like, in terms of people winning the same amount of games, it will go down to goal difference. I do think it's going to be really, really close.
Which is so exciting. I can't believe our top 4 are the exact same. And then it was just, so what did you go 5th again?
Cardiff.
Then
Mavericks.
Yeah.
Nottingham Panthers.
Okay. Yeah, we've basically done like almost opposite. I did Panthers, Forest, Cardiff Dragons, and then Mavs at the bottom.
Interesting.
We will have to wait and see.
will.
Last bit from us. Friday is the kick-off of the Super League.
Da-da-da-da.
We're so excited. So the first game is on Friday the 14th. It's at 7 o'clock. You can watch it on Sky Sports. It is Cardiff Dragons versus London Mavs. Who do you think is going to win that game?
Well, I'm going to go off my table. So I think Cardiff Dragons is going to come out. But again, I think it's going to be a close game.
Oh, this is going to be hard because I think Dragons are going to win this one as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Next game is also on Friday, also at 7. And again, watch on Sky Sports. Bit strange, they're both at the same time.
Well, I guess just
Different arenas, prime time. Okay. That is Rhinos versus Birmingham Panthers. I think I know what we're both going to say.
Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, close game.
Close game. We shall see. Because Gabby Sinclair will be back in action, so I'm intrigued. We've then got on Sunday the 16th at 5 o'clock, Pulse versus Forest. I'm going to go Pulse.
I'm going to go Pulse, but I do think Nottingham will definitely, as you said, I think Chelsea Pittman's going to get them hyped up, and I do think they're going to bring it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final game, again on Sunday, the Pulse and Nottingham game is going to be played on BBC Sport. And then the final game, which is on Sunday at 6:30, is Thunder versus Lightning.
Oof.
I don't know. I'm going to go Lightning.
I'll go Manchester then.
Jazz it up a little bit.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It depends if I don't know how long Paige is out for her injury. But I think
Manchester might be hungry, but after not getting through.
But same as Lightning. Thunder versus Lightning.
So you go Manchester?
I'm going to go Manchester just to be different.
Just be different.
Yeah. Crazy ball. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know your predictions. Tell us if we're completely wrong on our standings.
Yeah, and comment. So what we'll do is we'll probably do a post of our 2 teams as to where maybe we think everything's going to finish. And then drop us a comment, either comment on Spotify itself or on our Instagram post, and let us know what you think. And maybe put your predictions in and where you think everyone's going to finish.
Yeah, and also maybe keep your eyes peeled for another sneaky episode that might come out
very soon. And we're going to play a little preview of it now.
Yeah.
Okay. So first one is, what is the worst position on the court?
I'm going to say goal shooter.
Really?
Yeah.
Goal shooter?
Yeah.
We're going to see you in the next game as a goal shooter, I think, now,
Can you
aren't we?
imagine? That has happened, so
We
sorry,
would have to get you back on to be like, so, goal shooter now, how are you finding it?
How did you find it? I was like, oh, I had such a good game.
Our second question is, who is your netball idol?
Amelia Ekanazim. She's so smart, honestly. She's incredible.
What's your go-to snack on game day?
Oh, my snack. Like scrambled eggs. love scrambled eggs.
What's your pre-game ritual or superstition?
Oh, I'm actually not very superstitious. It's not that deep, it's just a game of catch. So I literally don't have any. Yeah, I know.
I like that, yeah, just take the pressure out of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and as soon as I feel stressed, I'm like, it's just catch. We're literally chasing the ball around a netball court.
I love that. And then our final question is what was one rule that you would get rid of?
Attacking contact.
Brilliant, thank you so much.
And that is a wrap of the Super Cup. Well done to London Pulse. It was a really, really exciting day, and the games were just phenomenal. It was nice to see all the players. It was nice to meet all the players. Spend it on International Women's Day doing something that we love, which is just watching netball, being part of netball. Again, a massive thank you to Netball Super League, England Netball, Izzy, Vanessa. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We genuinely love spending the time behind the scenes, getting to kind of know what it's like, experience kind of the interviewing side and being on the media side of things versus the fan side of things. It was just an incredible day. Thank you to all the players and the head coaches that we got to speak to, and yeah, I guess look forward to our next session that's coming out, a little bonus one for you all.
Yeah, well, enjoy, and we will